But first up tonight, we want to talk about the tribunal and the suspension process, or lack of. Guys, it's simple to say, I think that at the moment, the AFL, in trying to do all things for all people, are ending up doing nothing for nobody. And we'll go through the tribunal situation. And I don't think there's necessarily a one-person problem in any of this situation, but I think that we need to completely change the whole system. And I'll tell you what, I'll go back. I think it goes back to Toby Green last year, when he was rubbed out for touching the umpire. Now, let me give you the timeline of that. August 28, he bumps the umpire, right? We have no problem, he should get rubbed out. 29th of August, referred straight to the tribunal. 31st of August, given a 3-week ban, right? So that's okay. 1st of September, AFL decides to overrule its own independent body and goes again, and then they rub him out for 6. Now, I'm not arguing whether 6 is right or 3 is right, but I don't like the idea that you have an independent tribunal that then gets overridden. Today, we have a situation...
They did muck it up, though, didn't they?
Doesn't matter. That's why they're there. Well, you sack them. OK? That's what you do. You sack them.
The AFL had to take a stand.
Yeah, but you sack them. But once it's done, it's done. But what, to me, that did is you lose all credibility with the tribunal system. So now we have a situation, and I'm going to throw to Brad Scott, who's new to the caper. This was his first week in the job. Here's what Brad Scott had to say to the football world definitively in November.
If you contest the ball and you're late, and you hit the opposition player in the head with a bump, you're going to be in trouble.
OK, seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? So, first week of the season, this happens.
Really cleared away, though, and Rankin's left. Rioli crashed in. Rowell has been cleaned up. Big contest from 2 players.
So, there you go. He's late to the contest by a split second. He hits the bloke in the head, and he's in trouble because the AFL match review, Michael Critchin, says 1 week for you. Except it goes to the tribunal and they overturn it.
And that's the problem. I think the lack of trust and the confusion. I heard Jack Reebok on AFL 360. The news came to hand there and then, and they were like, what? They asked Zach Merritt. Oh, I would have thought he would have got a week. I think that's where the confusion is, that everyone thought that if you go for a mark or in the contest, bump a player, get him in the head, that you'll be suspended.
But based on that, the AFL, no appeal from the AFL.
No, but in the end, they got QC's advice today saying you won't get any further with it. Why go back? I ask you as a coach, what do you tell your player going into a game this week? Can you run and in that contest? Is Rioli right or wrong? Because the tribunal said
based on the rules, he's right.
But the AFL even came out today in a statement and said they were wrong.
Well, based on November, Brad Scott, you hit your head, and that's how I always thought it. Sacrosanct. If you elect to bump or turn, you hit him in the head, you're responsible.
Now, the argument there for the tribunal is it was simultaneously, and he could have been going for the ball a little bit earlier, and he's Nick Riewoldt and Jonathan Brown taking mark of the year. So that's the mitigation.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is it's such a split-second game. Why do we love Australian rules? Because it's instinctive, aggressive, and they just go. And as a coach, that's how I used to coach him, but you couldn't coach that now. So I think there's so much grey. We're going to see players hesitate, be anxious, and it's not going to be a great spectacle, to be honest, because we love the combat of our game, but we want to protect the head. So it's a really confusing period.
I know this isn't the same, but this is where I changed my views last year. And I saw this with Lachie Plowman. Ed, you were calling this game. It was Lachie Plowman and O'Meara. So the ball goes, he's committed. At the last second, they clash heads. Lachie needed to put his arms up there. Put his arms up to at least look like he was contesting for it.
His right arm should have went out to spoil.
Yeah, but they banged heads. He gets hurt as well, but they clashed heads. Lachie, you're gone. And I changed my views to think, OK, if that happens in the future, and even if you like, Rioli turns, hits him in the head, you're gone, Willie. So I think I've changed my views that I thought with consistency, Rioli would go, but he didn't.
Kara.
Look, I normally find tribunal and match review not part of this show, but I'm staggered with everything we've heard, even this week with the Venables story and the head and everything that Brad Scott said.
Yeah.
I don't understand how on earth Willie could have got off.
And now what'll happen? The next player who does something like that will go.
Do we want to talk about solutions, Ed?
Hang on, let's go through it and then we'll come to a solution, OK? So that's Rioli. Now, again, I reckon there's 2 camps in this situation. There are blatant breaking of the rules and there are those that are in the course of play. That one, I'd argue, is in the course of play. Could be a flip of the coin. I reckon in at the AFL it might have been 3-2 and there could be an argument
The
placed.
AFL wasn't happy with the player getting off at the
Players have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Am I too late to contest? And then...
So let me put this one, roll it through. Let's have a look at Mitch Robinson, OK? So Mitch Robinson's there, the ball comes out. He stands. He doesn't do anything. What else could he do? He couldn't do a backflip and jump out of the way. He's protected himself, which is the first rule of football. football and he's hit somebody in the shoulder. He didn't hit him in the head. And as a result of that, he got rubbed out by the AFL and it stood.
I can't believe he's suspended. He was going to contest, realised he couldn't, stopped his momentum, turned, didn't hit in the head. I can't believe he's suspended.
Chris Scott at a press conference today said this about players at ground level.
Yeah, if you hold back a little bit and stand up, we're not going to be coaching our players in the review on Monday saying you should have gone harder at that ball. I think that's where the game's changed. I remember the great Brisbane players I played with, they would attack that ball with everything they had, and anything that got in the way was fair game. Well, that's changed, and we've got to change with it.
Well, I used to coach harder and lower. Yep. Harder and lower was the mantra. We go harder and we go lower than the opposition. You can't coach that anymore.
So I was hard on Rory Lobb on Monday night, saying you need to go harder. And that's Chris said, I'm talking ground balls. I think Rory needed to commit earlier, and he could have got to Dawson earlier, and that would have been a different story. Ball would have got to ground. But in that sense, Chris is saying maybe let Duursma come through. Try and get out of his way because it's going to cost you a week. It's amazing where the game's got to.
Well, it's interesting because I heard you on Monday night and I thought, geez, that's interesting because we're trying to stop all this. But your point was he didn't go early.
Yeah.
In the end, Lobb did the right thing by not cleaning the bloke up and getting 2 weeks. Again, let me put this to you. I think the AFL have to come out, and I said this when I was on the law review thing. If you throw a punch, you get rubbed out. Because there's enough ways of intimidating playing football. You're not allowed to throw a punch, you're not allowed to kick, OK? And if you do something behind the play, then you're in trouble. Incidental contact and sometimes a mishap in a game or a split second. In a football act, you've got to give them a little bit of benefit of that, a little bit of leeway. But if you decide to do something like this, where he's looked, his head's the other way, he's nowhere near the ball, he's round-armed him. By the way, apparently if you hit him in the head, you get life, but if you hit him in the body, you're allowed to do it. Now look at that, that's a round-arm drive. Radaglia, no one's reported this, he left the ground and was off for 11 minutes and 55 seconds after that. Now you see him on the ground, he's a big man. Do you reckon he's faking it? He's been cleaned up.
That is almost the least, obviously not the head, but the most staggering and the most hypocritical in terms of consistency.
That's farcical.
So that's got nothing. Now, I want to roll one more before we get to the solution.
I don't say that lightly either. That's farcical. That's a strike.
Farcical.
Yeah, farcical. Yeah. It's a strike into the rib cage with no chance to contest the ball and not premeditated, but a conscious decision.
Why is that not appealed?
Well, I don't know. Now let's go to this one. This is Mason Cox. Now, OK, I barracked for Collingwood. Mason Cox is a mile off the ball here, and Dougal Howard has gone straight through him and hit him with the point of the shoulder and dropped him. Now, this one, St Kilda actually appealed this against the fine. He wobbled around all night and ended up doing his ankle out because he couldn't go for the mark and stretch up. And Collingwood will say he's not injured or anything else. He's got sore ribs. Don't worry about that.
So, Ed, how's it fixed?
So the fixing is this, I think, Caroline, is exactly what you just said. We need to get, first of all, work it out. No punching, no kicking, all that. That situation off the ball. The rule is there already. You're not allowed to hit anybody 5 metres off the ball. Just interpret the rules as they're there, not flavour of the week or what the Mothers Club or anybody else says. Just do it as it is. I think they've got to get rid of a couple of layers. There's too many moving parts. If it's Michael Christian, he does that and that's it. OK? They have an appeal situation because otherwise they end up going to courts.
Eddie, can we stop there? Can we go back? Yep. They're part-timers.
They have to be full-time.
Clubs are spending $100 million turnover to win games AFL footballs, and we've got 3 part-timers making decisions on full-time professional athletes.
Do you think Michael Christian would have made a different decision if he was full-time?
No, but what we would do, Caroline, is this. It should be made on the day. You should be watching the game, you do the review. By the time the coach gets to the press conference, they should know that Lloyd's been rubbed out for 3 weeks.
It's gone past part-timers.
They've got to have a same-day result, exactly what they do. Then if the clubs want to go, not to the courts, you can go to a tribunal, but I don't know about having the...
Bring it into football operations, AFL. Brad Scott, I've got great confidence in him, consistency.
He should have the final say. Get rid of the tribunal. It's archaic. I know we've got Brian Gleeson in there, QC, who's
It's a gift that keeps giving.
But
this has been going on for years.
Round 1, as I said on the news tonight, it's deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra said. It's just useless.